Balance training is often overlooked as an essential part of a fitness program. Most people are unaware of how balance actually helps them in everyday life, and it's not as sexy as exercising those beach muscles. During this video, you'll learn why balance is important, how you can improve it, and how it can be integrated into your everyday life. Later, I'll show you some simple tests that you can use at home, and I'll give you some general recommendations on how you can develop your own balance training program. Hi, I'm David Spri, and welcome to Practically Fit, a video series where I help you make sensible and practical decisions about your fitness and health. If you're new here, please click on the subscribe button or visit my blog if you want a more detailed commentary and source list. Okay, let's get to it. We constantly rely on our balance throughout the day. From walking to going up and down stairs to playing a sport, balance plays an essential role. What is balance? It's the integration of three complex systems. Our vestibular system, which consists of small fluid-filled canals in the inner ear that help us maintain our equilibrium, sending signals to our brain to let us know which way is up. Our visual system, which works with our vestibular system, sending signals from the eye muscles to the sensors in our inner ear to let us know when we move through space, our bodies are moving, but the world is not. And finally, we have our proprioceptive system, consisting of sensors in our muscles and tendons, which give us spatial awareness, telling us where our limbs are in relation to our body and the world around us. What do we mean by balance training? And how do we improve our balance? Not like this, but truth be told, balance can be trained in many different positions. Seated balance can be trained forward and back, as well as side to side. A chair will provide excellent support for most people. This may be too easy to begin for some, but if this is the case, add some difficulty. First, raise one arm at a time. Then raise both arms. Then raise a knee. Then a leg. Still too easy? Move to another type of support. Now on your new throne, increase the challenge by closing one eye. Now both eyes. You can also do this while turning your head. Any of these challenges can be done on a chair, on a pillow, or on a stability ball. Standing balance provides another challenge. When standing, begin with a wide base of support, and then sway forward and backward. Now side to side. Now narrow the base of support and perform the same movements. Now assume a semi-tandem stance, and now a tandem stance. To challenge yourself further, raise one arm at a time to the front and to the side. Now both arms to the front and side. Need more? Close one eye. Now both eyes. Need more of a challenge? Raise 1 foot off the ground. Now with that position, continue with the same challenges. Arm movements, eyes closed, and holding an object. Lying down can also be used to exercise your balance. Lie on your belly. Your base of support may be greater than while standing, but while lying down in a horizontal position, raise one arm. Now both arms. Now one arm and one leg. Now both legs. Now both arms and both legs. You can challenge yourself further by doing this on a stability ball or a BOSU ball, or even a Spri 360 board.
Let's go to the classroom.
Thanks for being on time for class. So there's a ton of information out there on balance training. And what I want to do is just highlight a few studies that have looked at the effectiveness of balance training in older adults, in athletes, and in young populations as well. So starting in 2011, a position statement was written by Garber and her colleagues through the American College of Sports Medicine. And basically their recommendation was that balance training should be done most days of the week. Now their push was toward older adults, basically looking at things like increasing mobility and strength as well as decreasing falls. But a review of 94 studies looking at over 9,900 participants showed that balance training improves stability, strength, mobility, and coordination. Again, the focus was on older adults in this review. In 2008, Shigematsu and his colleagues looked at people ages 65 to 74. And basically what he did was he looked at the effect of balance training on just regular walking versus what's called square stepping. So he had squares that were placed in a pattern. There were 40 squares in total. Individuals were told to walk forward, backwards, side to side, and on a diagonal to do their training, as opposed to just doing traditional balance training through walking. And what he found was that the square stepping improved reaction time and it decreased falls. But not only that, it increased leg power and leg strength and also improved mobility in the people he studied. In 2018, much more recently, the Physical Activity Guidelines Advisory Committee came out and said, look, if we're going to train balance, we need to make it multimodal. And what that means is that we need to incorporate endurance and strength and mobility and stability and flexibility and all of the aspects of a well-rounded fitness program. And what they found was that when we make it multimodal, or when we use a multimodal style of exercise, we decrease injury due to impaired balance by about 40%. So again, these are some studies that highlight the effectiveness of balance training, especially in older adults. Let's take a moment and look at how balance training affects athletics. Balance training has been shown to decrease the risk of ankle sprains in athletes. Specifically, in 2009, Hahn and his colleagues looked at the use of elastic bands 3 times a week for 12 weeks on the lower extremities. So these were specific exercises in the legs that they were using to see how it affected balance. And what he found was not only did it improve balance during the study, but there was an improvement in balance 4 weeks after the study was done, showing that that multimodal aspect that I talked about before is really important. So if we are going to train balance, we can do it through balance training type activities that are specific, or we can do it through strength training activities, as Hahn showed, through the use of elastic bands. In 2010, Ellis and his colleagues looked at the effectiveness of balance training in soccer and basketball players and found that there was also a decreased risk of ankle sprains, as we found earlier. Also, there was a decreased injury reduction, I should say, by 77% in football players. So again, you know, balance training for basketball, soccer, football, anywhere where athletics or athletic skill requires that kind of coordination is extremely important. So we can see that this kind of training is really beneficial to athletes. Now let's take a look at how balance training affects a younger population. Continuing our rah-rah for balance training, I wanted to talk with you about how this type of training affects younger people. Lisinski looked at people ages 16 through 40 years and actually reviewed 25 different studies that were randomized control trials, which is kind of the highest level of research that you can conduct. And he found that balance training improved one-leg stand in younger people, known as steady state balance, as well as decreased postural sway. So the more that individuals train their balance, the less postural sway they actually had, or the less likelihood they had of falling over when doing any kind of balance challenge. So it stands to reason that balance training is fantastic for older adults, for athletes, as well as for younger people. But, and there's a huge but, we don't know how much and how often we should be doing this type of training. Now, hearkening back to 2011 when Garber did her work and said that it should be most days of the week, well, that kind of, that's a general recommendation, but different sports require different amounts. If you're older, maybe you can't do it that often. You can't do your balance training that often. So it needs to be done less frequently during the week. Or maybe you're somebody who's highly motivated and you can do your balance training more days of the week. So what I'd like to do is just show you some studies that have looked at duration and frequency to try to arrive at a consensus of a recommendation of how often and how much balance training should be done. So let's address the question of how much and how often. So Brockman did a review study looking at several different studies on balance training, how effective it was, looking at time frames and protocols. And there were some protocols that were 40 to 50 minutes long. That's quite long for most people, and I don't think people have either that kind of time to just work on their balance, let alone just an exercise session. He also looked at 10 to 20 minute protocols. So there was a wide range of time frames in his review study. But what he found was, the consensus was it was 45 minutes, 2 times per week, per 8 weeks, that would really give you kind of the benefits of balance training. Now 45 minutes is quite long, so that could be broken down into 15-minute sessions 3 times. So we have to take this as the consensus from his review study, but still the jury is kind of out as to really how much and how often. And Lisinski, which we looked at before, or who we looked at before, said that there are 3 areas where there needs to be additional research. One is the dose response, and what dose response means is how much balance do I need to do to get a specific effectiveness. Either that effectiveness is a decrease in falls, it's an increase in my mobility, an increase in my coordination, my stability. So how much do I need to do in order to get that kind of result? We still need to determine that. There also needs to be research on the sequence protocol. Do I do my balance training before I work out? Do I do it after? Do I do it during? So again, there's not a lot of research in that area, and those questions still need to be answered. And the last is regulating the training intensity. Now, in terms of balance training, you're probably not going to be sweating profusely like you would if you were, let's say, running or doing something more intense. However, some of those balance exercises that I showed you and that are out there that you can find and that I'll leave links to in the description of the video are fairly intense and they require a lot of challenge. So, regulating the training intensity is really important when you're talking about the dose response. So how intense does it need to be? How often do I need to do it? How frequently do I need to do it, let's say, throughout the week? How long does my session need to be? All of those are questions that need to be answered through further research. And it's really important that there's a lot out there, but there isn't really a consensus on these questions. So what I'd like to do is now just give you a few recommendations from my own or on my own that I have put together based on the type of reading that I've done and the research that's out there. And hopefully that'll help you in terms of determining how much you should be doing. Well, so what? Well, balance is trainable, as we've seen. and it can help us throughout our lives in various ways. Let me give you some of my recommendations and talk with you about what I think the benefits are. The first thing is that balance training will improve your body awareness. That is where you are in space. As you move your limbs, both your arms and your legs, even when you close your eyes, it becomes a little bit more challenging. Balance awareness will help with that proprioception that we talked about. The second is coordination. And that is that balance training will improve the integration of all the various systems that help you to stay upright and in a good posture and not falling over. That is the vestibular system, which is in the inner ear, the visual system in the eye, and the proprioceptive system, which have sensors in the tendons and the muscles. Balance training will improve joint stability. As you continuously balance, you are placing challenges both on your bones and your joints. And if that is weight bearing, let's say not sitting in a chair but standing, those joints have to react against those forces. The more they react against those forces, the stronger they get, the more stable they become. Number 4 is reaction time. Now you may think of reaction time in terms of athletics. Think of a hockey goalie or a soccer goalie have to react to a shot very quickly. But if you really think about it, we are practicing our reaction time all the time. Whether we're driving or walking on an uneven surface, we're constantly changing our way of reacting to the world around us and to our environment. So if you think of an older person who, let's say, is falling, the reaction time is extremely important because it is what would prevent them from, let's say, hitting their face versus hitting their hands. Balance will improve this, and this will help in terms of longevity and quality of life. The more balanced you are, the more coordinated you are, the greater the reaction time you have, the higher the quality of life you will experience. Now what I want to do is just take a moment to go over some recommendations that I have for you to start your balance training program. As Garber said in 2011, and as they stated in 2018, your balance training should be done most days of the week. 3 to 5 days a week is somewhat conservative, but I'm putting that out there because I think most people could attain that goal. 10 to 20 minutes is what you should be looking for. Now that 10 to 20 minutes doesn't have to be in one shot. It could be broken up because if time or scheduling is a problem for you, then you could break that up and make it easier for you that way. 3 to 5 exercises are what you should be looking for. The exercises that I showed you are excellent. You can do them seated, you can do them standing, you can do them lying, you can do them moving. There are various ways of doing them, but pick 3 to 5 and stick with those to start. 2 sets each is what you should be doing. So once you finish a set of doing a seated balance exercise, you can do the next set. Or if you'd like, let's say you do a standing, a seated, and a lying down exercise, you could do 1 circuit of those and then do a second circuit, making it 2 sets of each exercise. 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Now, I put down 30 seconds because I think that that is somewhat of a conservative time frame. If you can't do 30 seconds, do what you can do and continuously improve. So these are some of the benefits, and these are some of my recommendations to get started. As promised, here are some simple balance tests that you can perform at home. The first is called the stork test. This is a test of whole body balance, requiring you to raise the heel of the supporting foot and stand on that leg for as long as possible. The next is called the single leg stand. This requires you to stand on the supporting leg with the heel on the ground and the hands across the chest. Stand like that for as long as possible. By using this rating system, you can see how you compare. So ways you could challenge yourself. Progressively change your stance. Go from something that's more wide to more narrow. Maybe do a tandem stance, as I showed earlier in the video. Try to turn in a circle while balancing, maybe on your tiptoes or even on your heels. This will provide a challenge to your proprioceptive system, allowing those sensors to tell you where you are in space. Use different pieces of equipment like a stability ball or a BOSU ball, which has a flat side and a round side, which can really aid in helping you to improve your balance. Or you could just use something as simple as a foam mat to change the type of surface that you're balancing on. Or close your eyes. By closing your eyes, you're taking away the visual connection to the brain. That communication between those sensors in the eyes and the inner ear are now shut off. This allows you to challenge your balance in a much different way. There are so many ways that you can challenge your balance that are very basic and very easy, that don't require any kind of specific or special equipment. The bottom line is you should train your balance regularly. Balance is an essential part of everyday life and will help you in activities that are as basic as walking to actually playing a sport more effortlessly and with efficiency. Well, that was a lot to go through. So I hope you have a good idea of what balance is and how to train it and how to improve it. And also what the data says about the effectiveness of balance training for older people, younger people, and athletes. As always, if you want to geek out and check out the science, then please visit my blog. The link is below in the description of this video. Don't forget to like the video and click the subscribe button. And send me any comments or thoughts you might have, and please keep those topics coming that you would like to see me cover in future videos. All this balance talk has made me realize that I need to work on my own balance. So, thanks so much for watching Practically Fit. I'll see you next time.